There are 1,000 ways a case goes cold. Sometimes it's because nobody saw anything. Sometimes it's because somebody saw everything and stayed quiet. But sometimes a case doesn't go cold for a simpler reason. Because the victim leaves behind one detail the suspect can't erase. Tonight's story is about a message. A short one. Not poetic. Not dramatic. Just specific enough to be dangerous. Blue sedan. Plate ends 2K9. Driver has a spider tattoo on left hand. If I'm not home in 10, call 911. That wasn't a goodbye. It was evidence created in real time. Welcome to True Crime Vault. I'm your host. Tonight, we're opening the file on Ellie's last message, which solved the entire case of her disappearance. Quick note before we get into it. If you like documentary-style breakdowns like this, subscribe to True Crime Vault. It helps more than you think, and it tells me to keep opening these files. Her name was Ellie Marquez. 24 years old, working late shifts at a busy midtown restaurant. Living the kind of life you build when you're trying to make in a city that never really gets easier. Ellie wasn't reckless. She wasn't looking for trouble. She had routines. A roommate waiting at home. Plans for the weekend. A half-finished playlist called November. Like she could already feel the next season coming. And like so many people, Ellie believed routine was protection. That if you stay predictable, the city learns you. That if you do everything right, you'll get home. It was a cold Tuesday in late October. Earlier that evening, Ellie texted her roommate, "Running late. Save me leftovers." Nothing about that message suggests danger. It suggests ordinary. She clocked out late, folded her apron under her arm, and headed toward the subway. And here's what people forget about late-night routines. When it's late, your world shrinks. Fewer open stores. Fewer pedestrians. Fewer eyes that might notice if something is off. The city gets quieter. And quiet makes room for choices you never see coming. At 11:47 p.m., Ellie's phone sent one last text message. It didn't go to the police. It didn't go to a family group chat. It went to one person Ellie trusted to take her seriously. Sandra. Sandra had been her best friend since high school. The kind of friend who doesn't need convincing. The kind of friend who hears a change in your voice and knows it matters. Ellie's message was short, specific, and terrifying. Blue sedan. Plate ends 2K9. Driver has a spider tattoo on left hand. If I'm not home in 10, call 911. Read it again. Color. Plate fragment. Unique identifier. Time limit. That isn't panic. That is observation under pressure. That is someone realizing something is wrong and choosing to leave a trail anyway. Sandra saw the message at 11:49 and called immediately. No answer. She called again, straight to voicemail. By 11:55, Sandra was on the phone with emergency services, repeating the text word for word like a prayer, terrified she'd forget a digit and lose the only lead they had. This is the moment where so many cases slip, where friends hesitate, where they tell themselves, maybe she's underground in the subway, or maybe I'm overreacting. Sandra didn't hesitate. She treated Ellie's words like an alarm. And pause right here. If you're watching and thinking, I would have waited, tell me in the comments. Would you have called 911 as fast as Sandra did, or would you have hesitated? When officers arrived at Ellie's apartment, something felt wrong fast. Her keys were missing. Her bag wasn't there. And the small gold necklace she never took off wasn't there either. A missing person report was filed before sunrise. And in those early hours, questions come hard. What was she wearing? Who did she leave with? Did she have enemies? Most families don't have answers yet, but investigators had something they almost never get this early: direction. Detectives pulled cameras along Ellie's route. They got a clear shot of her leaving work. Then a corner camera caught a smear of motion. Then the subway footage offered nothing definitive. New York is a city of cameras and blind spots. And the moment Ellie disappeared lived inside one of those blind spots. Investigators built a time window, 11:40 to midnight. And inside that window, the text message became the anchor point. Not find Ellie anywhere, but find a blue sedan. Find a plate ending in 2K 9-inch. They pulled traffic cameras around Midtown and filtered for blue sedans in that window. Hundreds appeared, but ends in 2K9 cut through noise like a knife. By the next afternoon, they had a match. A vehicle tied to a rideshare account under a fake name. Burner email, prepaid cards, a costume. And if you're still with me, hit subscribe now, because the next detail is the one that turns us from a car into a person. The plate gets you to a car, but the tattoo gets you to a person. A week earlier, another young woman filed a report. She got into what she thought was her ride. Something felt wrong. The route shifted. The driver's tone changed. At a red light, she ran. And she remembered one detail she couldn't unsee, a spider tattoo on the driver's left hand. At the time, there wasn't enough to build a case. Now it became the bridge between incidents. 2 women, 2 nights, 1 signature. When police located the car, they didn't find a dramatic scene. They found something worse. Normal. A car that looked like it belonged in the city, like it could disappear in traffic forever. Inside were traces, fibers, a torn nail, and a crumpled receipt from a bus terminal. The driver wasn't there, but the case was no longer searching in the dark. Bus terminals mean exits, movement, a person trying to become a ghost. Detectives pulled footage. A man moved through the concourse alone. No luggage, no panic, just purpose. The footage wasn't clear enough to give a face. But then the figure adjusted his cap, and for a split second, the camera caught his left hand. The spider flashed under fluorescent light, like a signature. That's the moment investigators stop guessing and start proving. If you want more cases where one tiny detail flips everything, subscribe to The Vault, comment found, so I know you made it to turn in the story. We do this every week. Forensics pulled Ellie's cloud data, and buried inside were fragments the suspect didn't count on. Location traces before the phone went dark. It placed her briefly near an industrial side street, an area with few cameras and fewer witnesses. Search teams moved at dawn, because daylight doesn't make the world safer. It just makes the truth easier to see. Behind a loading dock, they found Ellie's gold necklace. Not dropped, placed, a message, and an AK-9 unit alerted near a locked storage space. They cut the lock, and inside they found Ellie, alive, weak, dehydrated, but conscious. The case flipped in an instant, because now they didn't just have evidence. They had a witness. With Ellie safe, detectives moved fast. They preserved the car, the receipt, the CCTV, and the digital trail. 2 weeks later, officers stopped a rental car near the edge of the city. A minor traffic violation, a legal pretext. And there he was, the spider tattoo on the left hand. This time, he didn't vanish. In court, prosecutors opened with a screenshot. Ellie's last message. Not because it was dramatic, because it was precise. A plate fragment, a unique identifier, a timestamp, a plan, a victim turning panic into a roadmap. So it solved this case. Not one miracle clue. A chain of small truths that held tight. The plate fragment narrowed the universe. The tattoo turned a car into a person. The bus terminal footage confirmed movement. Digital forensics provided direction. Search teams moved before time ran out. But the spine of the case was one decision. Ellie documenting what she saw while she still could. One more thing before we close the file. If you want the next episode, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next case is even darker, and it starts with detail most people would ignore. What do you think broke this case open? The partial plate, the spider tattoo, or the bus terminal footage? Drop your theory in the comments. Subscribe for more cases from the vault. I'm your host, and this was True Crime Vault.